Just as these siblings were heading out for a fun hangout, some random fighter pulled up and literally ended the brother's life on the spot. Out of nowhere though, the dude just completely healed and resurrected. Turns out, this attacker just wanted to test out their insane healing factors. Seeing that it actually worked, this psycho decided to just keep taking them out on an endless loop every single time they resurrected. This guy was basically farming them for free experience points to boost his own stats. Fast forward a few years of being locked in his creepy basement, and things got worse. He actually brought his buddies in on this sick grinding strategy. He grouped up with 5 elite fighters, and they totally abused these kids' powers to cheat their way to the top-tier spots nationwide. Everyone in the squad had their own messed-up routine for grinding experience, and a few of these creeps did way worse stuff than just fatal blows. Since the duo came from an unkillable bloodline though, they kept bouncing back. That basically meant they were stuck feeling the absolute agony of the end on repeat. Then one afternoon, these arrogant dudes forgot to lock the cage. They seriously thought their victims were way too exhausted to even try escaping. Most of the squad had to travel across the map for some hero business, flexing their title as the top-tier demon slayers. But one greedy dude decided to stay back, hoping to farm just a little more experience out of his captives. Down in the dark, the brother was literally nailed to the ground, while his sister was completely traumatized. After everything those monsters put her through, she thought maybe destroying herself and resetting her body would wash away the trauma. Trying to bust her brother out, she desperately chopped through whatever was holding him down. Knowing she had to force a respawn, she pierced him straight through the chest. Surprisingly, taking him down gave her a massive stat boost. It totally blew her mind. This was exactly how those psychos had been power leveling this whole time. A crazy dark look washed over her face. It was payback time for both of them. Even if she had to sink to their twisted level, she was all in. Catching her drift instantly, he just told her to go ahead and strike. Trapped in that freezing dungeon, they basically farmed each other for nearly 1,000,000 rounds of brutal respawns. Now, they were completely overpowered. When that lingering guard finally stepped downstairs for some fun, he walked into a total nightmare. The siblings were actively powering up, making the guy freak out and yell that they were stealing his cheat code. In a split second, they healed back up with absolutely shredded stats. They didn't look like helpless victims anymore. They were practically rabid beasts about to pounce, making the guy actually trip over himself in panic. Catching his breath, he remembered he was supposedly a national treasure. So he summoned his absolute strongest battle pet. The brother didn't even flinch. He gently nudged his sister back, ready to flex their insane new upgrades. Standing there with zero fear, he looked like he wouldn't even blink if a literal dragon tried to stare him down. Even with her crazy stats, the girl was obviously still haunted by her past, so her big bro stepped up to be her absolute shield. The clash between the elite fighter and this newly buffed immortal was a bloodbath. Raw power and skills totally flopped against pure rage. After completely emptying the guy's health bar, the brother promised him the most painful payback imaginable. Hours passed while he repeatedly wrecked and healed the dude's body, letting him taste the exact torture they endured for years. Upon returning home, the rest of the squad found their buddy chained to the ceiling, basically turned into minced meat. He was technically still breathing, but absolutely no recovery spell was going to fix that mess. Seeing the damage, the boss just ended his buddy's misery right there, with one clean slice. Chakara lost his mind over it, but Haruto told him it was a mercy kill since he was beyond saving. Now, they were dead set on hunting down the escapees. Cut to Shinn and Manori sprinting through the dark woods, pushing hard until the little sister's legs totally give out. With her muscles screaming in pain, they stopped to catch their breath, finally realizing they actually made it out alive. Shinn just softly pats Minori's head to calm her down. Making it through that absolute nightmare, he vows to keep her safe. Moments later, she completely passes out on his lap from pure exhaustion. He forces himself to play lookout, totally paranoid about when those elite creeps might track them down. But the fatigue starts hitting him hard, and he fights intensely to keep his eyes open, knowing he can't slack off. Out of nowhere, Shinn spots 2 figures sprinting through the trees, snapping fully awake as the adrenaline kicks in. He picks up on that same twisted aura from his abusers. Hoping his sister stays hidden, he dashes off to chase down the threats. Tracking that dark energy straight to some random cabin in the woods, he knows he is about to be spotted. Just then, a dude steps out from the blind spot behind him and completely shanks him in the neck. A bunch of creepy weirdos suddenly step out from the bushes, completely boxing him in. He has absolutely no clue who these total strangers are. The squad traps him from every angle, leaving literally 0 escape routes. The crew recognizes their target immediately. Still, they recall a girl being involved too, with a crazy 500 million bounty just to snatch one person. They totally thought this gig would be a total breeze. The squad's magic user buffs her teammates, hyping them up with extra muscle. Riding that power high, the first dude swings hard at Shinn, convinced this fight is basically a joke, watching the teen drop to the dirt with what looks like totally shattered bones. But then, Shinn literally just cracks his neck back into place, dropping everyone's jaws since he should definitely be a goner. He checks if they're guild lapdogs, but when nobody speaks up, he figures their identity is whatever. Out of nowhere, he literally blinks out of existence, teleporting to their blind spot and absolutely wrecking one guy with a brutal stomach punch. Send bad vibes his way, and you're instantly on his hit list. Two dudes rush in and actually manage to rip his arm completely off, but Shinn goes wild, catching his own detached limb and chucking it right into a guy's face. While dropping that dude, a fresh arm grows back, and he doesn't waste a single second, launching a heavy right hook into another hater using the brand new limb. Once those three bite the dust, he realizes only the staff-wielding spellcaster is left standing. Totally freaking out over his insane power, she blasts him head-on with some intense violet magic beam. Even with his crazy strength, dodging that blast is impossible. But she absolutely panics when Shinn just brushes it off and stands back up flawless. Freaking out over his healing cheat code, the caster starts spamming abilities, launching wave after wave of violet lasers, but he just keeps shrugging it off. When she tries making a run for it, he instantly blocks her escape. Shinn completely bodies her, strings the whole squad up in the branches, and snags a fresh outfit off one of the guys. Deciding not to unalive them, he heads back to check on his little sister. He says sorry for the noise. While Manori questions his new drip, Shinn totally caps, claiming some nice stranger handed it over, making the girl super relieved. He hooked her up with an outfit too, which gets her super hyped. Rocking their new gear, the duo heads further down the dusty path. The unkillable brother-sister duo keeps pushing forward to finally catch a break. Shinn figured putting a bit more distance between them would throw the guild off their scent. They chilled by a waterfall, lighting a cozy campfire hidden behind the cascade. He snagged enough snacks for both of them, totally restoring their energy levels. He looted the bounty hunter's gear and survival snacks. But honestly, their pockets. Shinn told his sis to lay low while he hit up the tower to score some supplies and figure out what was happening. Honestly, rolling up to the city blew his mind. The tech level was absolutely insane. He fenced some gear for a massive payout, bagging tons of essentials. Thanks to that fat stack of cash, he was finally ready to get his sister a decent meal. He debated his next move. Since Abe was literally their weakest link, the rest of that squad were absolute monsters. Finding their blind spots was top priority if he wanted to send every last one to hell. Looking up, some massive blimp was streaming breaking news that the S-tier hunter, Abe Teru, had officially kicked the bucket. Kira was doing a live stream, crying about how their loyal buddy got savagely tortured and taken out. He swore they'd never let the killer slide. Then, he plastered Kiryu, Shinn, and Manori's faces all over the screens to get the whole city raging. Suddenly, it totally made sense why those goons earlier were trying to bag them. Midstream, Haruto called Shinn out by name, promising hardcore payback and flexing that staying hidden was literally impossible. The broadcast triggered a total meltdown in the streets, with the whole city screaming for the siblings' heads to get payback for Abe. Nobody would ever forgive the villains who murdered their favorite idol. Shinn instantly knew Kira was covering up his own dirty work and swore to ruin him. The story then flashes back a few days. Right before the siblings pulled off their escape, Kara was absolutely destroying some guy with punches for coming back with garbage intel, calling him total trash. Ya mentioned their levels were high enough already, making the intel totally pointless. Seiya was totally stressing out that their messed up actions against the Kiru siblings might leak. Haruto told him to chill, plotting to frame the duo as absolute psycho villains so nobody would suspect a thing. He figured nobody would ever trust the word of runaways rocking a 500 million bounty anyway. Kongu thought this meant letting them breathe after they wrecked Taru. Pissed off, he swore he'd never excuse them for hurting his bro, Abe. He was dead set on hunting them both down and giving them a front row ticket to absolute misery. A totally got his vibe, but pointed out Taru was basically their weakest link, making him prime bait. Kongu lost it and swung at the caster for trash-talking their lost buddy, but glowing binds instantly locked his fist in place. Music. The caster told him to chill out, totally convinced those siblings weren't even remotely dangerous to their crew. But Kongu wasn't scared. He just wanted pure payback. The shouting match died down the second Kira cut in. Someone left a creepy note in Taru's life juice, promising to ghost their whole squad, proving those siblings were still hunting them. Haruto ordered the squad to stay frosty, totally confident those weirdos would pop up before long. They had the whole globe backing them up now that the target's identities and massive reward went viral. Leaks about the duo were totally guaranteed. Kongu tried clapping back, but Haruto reminded him freaking out was a terrible look for global icons. Right now, they had to gear up for the underworld bosses, making a breather mandatory since everybody was dead tired. Chakara, though, couldn't even catch a wink with all that toxic rage bubbling up in his chest. He was obsessed with tracking the pair down and canceling them completely. Cut to the waterfall, where the runaway duo was chilling. Manori caught some seriously deep sleep thanks to a slick mirage spell keeping her blissfully clueless about outside dangers. Once they woke up, they figured they had to dip. Sticking around the same exact spot was basically begging for trouble. He gave Manori a reality check. They were officially outlaws trending in every town, so staying ultra low-key was essential. His big brain move? Rocking masks to keep their identities under wraps. Even if it messed with their eyesight a little. The Kiru duo strapped on the disguises, realizing they were super practical, especially if they ran into any random haters. Right before heading out, Manori checked if Shinn actually had a plan, and her bro swore he already had a spot lined up. Their target was a dungeon, an alternate dimension tucked behind a portal where normal reality rules basically glitched out completely. It was totally off limits to basic civilians. The brutal landscape was a nightmare to navigate but absolutely top tier for vanishing. Based on a sketchy map he copped downtown, the mountain's peak hid an incredibly toxic marshland. Since the zone was practically a death trap, chasers would never bother checking it, creating an epic hideout. Soon, they hit the magical entrance. No matter how crazy things got, music, they'd absolutely always have each other's backs. Locking fingers tightly, they full-sent it straight through the glowing rift. Touching down, they were shook. The bog looked legitimately lethal, way too toxic for anyone else to survive. Still, staying paranoid was their best bet. Some try-hard tracker could totally chug an antidote brew and ambush them. Right then, he triggered a weed that spiked straight through his skull. He instantly shouted at his sis to dodge those weird creeping roots or risk getting blasted by projectile pods, since the whole zone was rigged. Realizing chill mode was cancelled, she quickly flagged something creeping up close. Spotting two massive wolves, one icy white, the other pitch black, the duo basically froze in pure disbelief. He told his sister to stay back, promising he'd totally wreck the beasts all by himself. Sprinting at the mutants, he caught insane air, landing squarely on them before dropping a massive punch that instantly obliterated the Dark One. But then the pale beast straight up chomped half his torso off. Manori panicked, yet he healed up in seconds, completely rattled but still alive. Since it was a dimension-born freak, its agility and power were totally broken, easily way scarier than Abe Teru's mutant pet. Manori threw down a defense hex for her bro. The wild buff literally made his detached limbs fly solo to brawl with the creature. Those freaky floating fists cranked the beast's jaws wide open, exposing a massive set of nasty fangs. With its snout pinned back, he blitzed the monster, blasting straight through its core to totally shut the battle down. Totally gassed out, he was dripping sweat and gasping, seriously stressing his sister out. He secured the dub, but looked absolutely ready to drop. He was completely sure that insane finisher move only actually triggered thanks to Manori's clutch magic boost. Watching crimson spark surge across his skin, he totally flexed about how overpowered the skill was for securing that victory. Cut to 30 days post-breakout. Kongu was casually hefting a massive boulder, while his goons handled some random local mobs. He yeeted that rock with absolute max power, instantly folding the sapphire drakes. Then he rushed another drake, savagely tearing off its wing and snagging a level up. Classic Kongu energy sweeping those flying lizards like it was absolutely nothing. Grabbing grub in a cavern later on, Kongu aggressively demanded an update on the runaway duo's exact location. His crew told him to chill, claiming the massive reward had every tracker sweating to find them. Then, a lackey dropped some way heavier intel. His buddy let it slip that the kid was currently rocking a face cover now. Just last week, that same friend raided the toxic zone and caught Kirushin literally boxing a venomous serpent into the dirt with 0 weapons. Those toxic vipers are Class A threats with enough venom to drop an elephant. No way anyone thought a regular dude could actually solo one. Chakara was seriously tripping over the fact that some absolute beast was roaming around totally off his radar. Hearing some masked guy literally punched out an elite serpent made him super hyped to track him down. His crew mentioned the whole crazy scene went down 3 days back, meaning the kid was definitely still lurking in the zone. One dude tried talking sense into Kongu about the area being strictly off limits and lethal, but just earned a fist to the face for his trouble. Right after, he ordered an instant trip to the toxic marsh, completely hyped to corner this masked legend. Meanwhile, deep in the ruins, our guy caught a weird vibe. Spooked, he scrambled up a branch to keep eyes on the gateway, totally feeling someone creeping closer. Knowing exactly that it was Kongu, he decided to face him head-on, even though Manori was literally begging him not to go. But our boy just told her to chill, reminding her how much they had leveled up. This was their ultimate shot to pay that meathead back. He gave his sis a reassuring look, promising she had nothing to sweat about, since he was basically immortal anyway. Minori still told him to watch his back, reminding him that even with his cheat code, Kongu packed way more of a punch than Abe ever did. Tossing a quick buff spell his way to max out his stats, she watched her brother sprint right into the action. Sneaking through the canopy, he popped a vision-boosting skill and finally spotted Kongu chilling by the marsh entrance, totally baiting him out. Catching sight of a toxic wild pig roaming close, our guy hatched a genius plan to set up an ambush. Slicing his own finger just a bit, he hit the beast with a massive mind control and fake-out combo. Then he directed the pig straight into a massive pack of its toxic buddies, pulling the whole herd right into his snare. Watching the stampede of pigs charging their way, Kongu and his crew saw it as a solid practice round. He yelled at his shaking goons to step up and fight, absolutely wrecking the beasts without breaking a sweat. Kongu kept screaming for a real challenge because this was just way too basic. Once the entire pack was wiped, he flexed about how pathetic they were. His minions begged for a breather, but Chakara completely ignored their whining. One of the goons started complaining about not being able to breathe or stand, right before hacking up a ton of red. Suddenly, everyone's skin literally started bubbling away while they all choked on massive amounts of crimson. Catching a whiff of toxins, Kongu finally clocked why his crew was dropping like flies. He knew those wild pigs did not drop that kind of nasty hazard when dusted. While he was busy trying to do the math, our boy practically materialized right behind his back. He went for a hit, but Kongu blocked it like it was nothing. Spinning around, the giant saw the masked dude and knew the street talk was legit. Diving straight back into the mix, our hero actually managed to carve up Chakara's grip with his blade. Even with cold steel stuck right in his palm, the giant just clapped back with a massive hook. Our guy got launched backward, totally rocked by the pure shockwave of the hit. Kongu's insane tankiness proved every single hype story was fact. Yanking the blade out like a splinter, Kongu laughed and admitted he was actually vibing with this masked kid. He went off about how he respects absolute units and cringes at pure trash, claiming his crew only bit the dust because they were pathetic. Totally sold on the kid's skills, he dropped an invite to join his squad. Swearing loyalty to Byakurin meant drowning in cash, clout, and girls. It was all basically a guaranteed package deal. Kongu smirked, asking if the hookup sounded like a vibe. He doubled down on his obsession with power and his hate for weaklings, admitting his current squad turned out to be total letdowns. They did nothing but get on his nerves, and honestly, he was kicking himself for not just turning them into literal sparring dummies. Flashing back to his own brutal treatment, our guy snapped and demanded to know why he got off on bullying defenseless people. Chakara just smirked and said it was pure comedy. He bragged that anytime he bashed a weakling, they literally all reacted the exact same way. They always start crying and begging for mercy, and watching them totally lose it in sheer panic just cracks him up. Their pathetic looks were basically prime entertainment. Hearing that garbage completely set our boy off, so he charged in and clocked him right in the jaw. Kongo just saw his boys as cannon fodder anyway, and actually hyped up the kid's solid right hook. A split second later, the giant threw an absolute haymaker, but Shinn barely managed to weave out of the blast zone. Without missing a beat, Shinn whipped out a blade and sank it right into the heavy's arm. Letting him walk wasn't on Kongu's agenda, but he had to respect the crazy damage output. Shinn already had this massive red flag that Chakara was built different, and watching the dude charge up a devastating counter, with absolute malice painted on his face, just proved it. That absolutely nasty shockwave caught Shinn dead center, launching him into orbit. As he was airborne, he realized that was the hardest he had ever been decked in his entire life. He was totally convinced that insane hit was the guy's absolute max limit. Strolling up to him, Kongu mockingly checked if he was still breathing, then casually dropped the bomb that he was only using 30% of his actual stats. Shinn's jaw practically hit the floor. He could not wrap his head around the fact that the guy was holding back. The massive dude totally egged him on, daring our boy to pull out all the stops and use whatever weapons he was hiding. He flexed hard, swearing he would tank literally anything the masked guy dished out just to assert total dominance. Shinn dashed in for a nasty slash, but his blade totally exploded against Kongu's iron skin, The giant smirked, bragging that a butter knife like that could never pierce his peak defenses. He taunted that Shinn had to be feeling the massive skill gap by now, making it super obvious there was zero chance of him winning. But instead of backing down, our boy answered with a crazy, high-speed barrage of fists. Chakara actually seemed impressed, admitting nobody else had ever dared to throw down like this after seeing what he could do. Getting totally hyped, the villain decided he actually liked this masked kid and launched a wicked kick that sent our main guy soaring through the air. Fired up, he slammed the kid into the dirt, but his hype instantly died down when he thought he had accidentally unalived him too soon. Just as Kongu spotted a toxic puddle spreading on the floor, a random blade suddenly embedded right into his shoulder. He tripped out seeing Shinn rise from that lethal acid bath without a single burn, straight up calling him a freak of nature. Even with all that, the brute still could not figure out who the heck he was fighting. Wait, it suddenly clicked for Chakara. He completely snapped and rushed in to grab our hero, but Shinn smoothly dodged the crazy rush. Kongu fueled his fist with pure magical energy and nuked the ground, sparking a massive shockwave that totally blew Shinn away. That insane strike carved out a massive crater, and the sheer force ripped our boy's disguise right off his face. The second Chakara saw what was underneath, he burst into completely unhinged laughter. He finally realized he was dealing with the immortal guy. He totally lost it, screaming that he had been hunting Kiryu Makoto Shinn forever, and finally bagged his prey. Chakara was absolutely mind-blown, suddenly connecting the dots that Shinn only survived those fatal hits thanks to his crazy healing factor. He shouted that he had spent ages tracking him down to get payback for Taru's demise, instantly dropping any thoughts of teaming up. Boiling over with pure rage, the giant swore he was going to wipe him off the face of the earth. Our guy snapped right back, coldly stating that just unaliving Kongu Chara would not even come close to satisfying his own thirst for revenge. It was an all-out showdown as the massive beast rushed in, shotgunning boulders so insanely fast that one literally ripped Shinn's arm clean off. Without missing a beat, Kongu dropped a savage axe kick from above, screaming that there was no way the immortal was getting away this time. That monstrous stomp absolutely pulverized the battlefield, carving the crater way deeper. Our boy totally brushed it off though, blitzing Chakara in a flash and planting a solid right hook right on his jaw. But Kongu practically ate the hit without flinching. Mocking the weak strike, he decided to show the kid what a real heavy hitter looks like. He rocked Shinn with a sickening hook to the head, launching him into a boulder and making him hack up serious amounts of blood. Catching sight of the immortal actually shaking from the impact, Kongu let out a booming laugh at how obviously terrified the kid was. Panic totally took over. Shinn bolted as he locked eyes with the monster, the pure trauma of his past torture hitting him all at once. Makoto sprinted for his life, while the towering freak just casually strolled after him like a horror movie villain. Letting out a desperate yell, the immortal used his power to telekinetically launch his chopped-off arm right at the giant's back. The big guy did not even flinch, totally obliterating the rogue limb and shutting down the sneaky magic trick instantly. Smirking, the absolute tank bragged that cheap parlor tricks like that would never take him out. Closing the gap, he delivered a totally gut-wrenching punt to the kid's stomach, pinning his head down under his boot to ask how he got buff so fast. He coldly promised to keep beating him to an absolute pulp until he started spilling some answers. Reading the sheer panic on the kid's face, Kongu totally guessed that his sister had to be hiding super close by. He cruelly dropped that once he was done trashing Shinn, he was coming for Manori next, just to see if breaking her would be this fun. Our main guy was absolutely seeing red, but being stun-locked by endless kicks to the skull kept him totally grounded. The massive brute delivered a brutal head stomp, aiming to trap him before he healed up, but then, the kid literally teleported right behind him. Sick crimson and dark lightning sparked everywhere around him, as his healing factor completely hit overdrive. Moving way too fast to track, Shinn glitched right into the giant's face, winding up for an insane counterattack. Their fists collided in midair, blasting out a ridiculous shockwave that tore up the entire battleground. Kongu totally caught the speed upgrade, but still brushed the kid off as weak. Convinced he was totally out of his league, he spammed a brutal combo that broke through Shinn's guard, taunting his laggy healing before literally blowing the kid's arm to pieces while he shrieked in agony. Smirking, the monster out loud wondered just how long this pathetic stalling tactic was actually going to last. Boom! Another kick lands and rips off the hero's second arm. Chakara mocks him, calling him a mindless scrub who only knows how to heal and block. He spots Shinn grinning and demands to know what's so funny. Our boy smirks, saying he just realized how lucky he is that Kongu is completely brain dead. Shinn suddenly realizes his chopped-off body parts are glowing with a sick red and black aura. Mentally, he commands the bloody pieces to strike, The severed limbs launch at the bad guy, who just laughs off the hits as total garbage. He easily parries the flying fists, but gets caught completely off guard by their heavy impact, especially since the kid was literally shaking minutes ago. Terrified or not, an insane surge of power suddenly wakes up inside the kid. It's a dark energy, letting him pack all his pure rage into every single strike. Sparking with magic lightning, his one good arm winds up for a brutal haymaker. He connects, instantly blasting the villain's arm into bloody chunks and leaving him stunned. Shinn totally flexes on them, daring the massive brute to a raw test of muscle. The enemy absolutely loses it, roaring that he'll pound this immortal freak into mincemeat. Kongu rushes in like an absolute tank, screaming he'll shred him beyond repair. Right then, our guy magnetically snaps all his scattered limbs together. The pieces merge into one massive, monstrous fist, charging up the most insane punch of his life. Bam! The colossal fist smashes into him, launching the big guy miles away from the sheer force. Shinn asks Chakara how it tastes getting outmuscled, promising to permanently scar him with every ounce of trauma the brothers suffered. Flash forward 1 week post-fight, and we catch up with the hero squad chilling at headquarters. Kira checks in on the prep work for the upcoming Demon Lord boss. Seiya nods, stressing they gotta grind hard to honor Abe Teru. Weirdly, Haruto totally blanks on Taru even existing, which instantly gives Seiya some serious bad vibes. Kira quickly laughs it off as a bad joke, claiming he remembers Abe perfectly. Breaking the weird tension, Seiya points out Chakara is completely missing. Kira casually drops that he's out hunting the brothers, joking about how they used to be top-tier punching bags. He tells the sword dude to chill out, promising Chakara will drag the boys back shortly. Their toxic vibes totally creep Seiya out, making him swear he'll train those kids relentlessly once they return. Suddenly, a panicked staff member bursts into the room with some breaking news for the squad. They just got a hyper-suspicious package. Seiya and Kira sprint over to check the drop, while a stressed-out Ya tells them to just look inside. That's when Seiya spots the gruesome, chopped-up chunks of Kongu, instantly recognizing his iconic ink. The whole crew starts panicking, realizing it's definitely Chakara's severed arm. Ya uses a quick scan spell, proving it's absolutely legit. The gory remains are completely real. Seiya freaks out, while Ya questions who could actually clap a tank like him. Inspecting the brutal/marks and the psycho delivery method, Ya guesses the attacker must have some insanely personal beef. Since Chakara was tracking down the brothers, the squad connects the dots and blames the boys. Seiya is mind-blown that 2 weaklings could wreck a monster. Kira admits he got suspicious back when Taru got smoked. Sure, Taru was their lowest-tier fighter, but he could still easily body the average hunter. But now Chakara, an absolute top-tier beast, just got flatlined. Kira realizes the brothers have leveled up way beyond normal. The sword fighter is totally fuming, unable to grasp how they got strong enough to pack Kongu so fast. Haruto demands to know their secret. Seiya reveals their insane grind, literally destroying each other hundreds of times for pure experience. Kira chimes in, pointing out that clapping an over-leveled boss hands you an absolutely massive experience draw. The toxic duo basically spawn-camp themselves to max their stats, gaining enough firepower to finally destroy the Byakurin Guild. Ya and Seiya are totally rattled by this hardcore strategy, desperately trying to keep their cool. Mourning Chakara sucks, but right now they desperately need to brainstorm a counter-strategy. Ya hits Seiya with a mental calming buff and tells him to crash. He dips out, while Haruto tells the mage to bounce so he can think. Once she is gone, Haruto casually grabs his dead buddy's chopped-off limb, literally unfazed by the threat. Mailing him a gory piece of trash is a weak flex that doesn't scare him at all. If those punks think this is enough for payback, they are dead wrong. Though honestly, scheming up a way to drop Kongu is pretty hardcore. He brutally stomps right on his fallen teammate's eyeball, trashing the brothers as absolute clowns. Plot twist: that eyeball actually belonged to Makoto Shinn, who was literally spying through it. With the camera smashed, the feed cuts out entirely, leaving him realizing he has to dig up more intel from their base. He was totally stressing over Manori, so he headed back to check on her, since she was literally just chilling outside the guild base waiting for him. Dropping off that package gave him the perfect excuse to hit the city for snacks, especially since dungeon food is absolutely trash. Plus, his fit has this crazy body memory charm on it. Whenever it gets wrecked or filthy, it just magically fixes itself, which is honestly so clutch. He grabbed a couple of sweet gifts for Manori, since she was hanging out all by herself, waiting for him to get back. Parkouring across the rooftops back toward the dungeon, he spotted something super sketchy. Geared up hunters actively hunting someone down. Our guy hit the brakes when he realized their target was a girl. He honestly wanted to mind his own business, since that turf belonged to Byakurin. Right at that moment, the squad completely boxed her in, totally convinced they had secured their prize. Watching her give up and stop running flipped a switch in our hero's brain. There was no way he could just sit back and watch. He dropped from the roof and absolutely blitzed the guys, serving them both massive knuckle sandwiches before they could even blink. Figuring she had a massive target on her back for a reason, he yelled at her to dip immediately. That is when he caught a glimpse of her face and totally blanked on why she was there. Meanwhile, Manori was just kicking her feet on a tree branch waiting for her bro. He finally showed up, but his sister instantly sensed the weird vibe when she spotted him carrying some random girl in a hoodie. When she asked who the heck he was holding, he just told her to take a deep breath and check out the stranger's face. Minori was completely shook to see her own literal reflection staring back. They were absolute twins down to the last detail. Enter Ishiki Seiya, the incredibly arrogant boss of the Byakurin Guild and the planet's top S-rank sword fighter. With those soft eyes, he was basically a walking chick magnet. His fake nice guy routine had everyone fooled, but practically nobody knew about the absolute monster hiding underneath. Get this. One time he was chilling in a jacuzzi with a bunch of girls, and one of them accidentally dropped some wine in the water. Seiya absolutely lost his mind and permanently silenced her right then and there over literally nothing. Back in the day, seeing Minori locked up made him declare her the ultimate prize. Unlike the rest, no matter how terribly he treated her, she just kept bouncing back. He flexed this toxic trait by slicing her up with his divine blade. He got the absolute biggest rush out of breaking girls, which seriously ticked Shinn off since the creep just wouldn't drop his obsession with Minori. Seiya forced steel between his older brother's teeth just to kill the noise. Wrecking guys bored him to tears. He'd much rather save his twisted little games for the girls. He ruthlessly broke her down right while his brother watched, daring her to scream louder. Done with his sick power trip, he hit the main elevator and caught Kira and Taru whispering. He tracked them sneaking into a zone strictly off-limits to literally anyone besides Haruto. Seiya tried to sneak a quick peek around the door. Kira totally busted him and told him to back off. Seiya quickly apologized, admitting he just got super nosy watching them sneak inside. Kira brushed it off as just dumping some trash, then dared the sword guy to peek inside. Totally intrigued, Seiya stepped in, only to freeze at the crazy sight of giant glass tanks holding exact Manori copies. Haruto jumped in, admitting he totally ordered the Manori Kiru copies. His mastermind scheme was spamming news abilities to endlessly print them and absolutely skyrocket his own levels. They literally built these copies by mashing Byakurin's stash with Teru's insane tech. Total fail, though, since their healing factor was seriously glitched. If a duplicate got wiped out 10 times, it permanently lost its respawn powers. On top of that, trashing them dropped 0 experience points. Taru tried buffing them up, but it was a massive headache and totally pointless, so they just decided to scrap the whole batch. Seiya was like, "Are you seriously just dumping them?" But Taru smirked and hinted at a sneaky loophole. He planned to milk those fakes for everything before trashing them, admitting it totally sucked, since they were just empty copies anyway. Being a total weirdo, the ultimate swordmaster actually begged to keep the copies. Taru clapped back, calling them useless shells, with literally 0 feelings or thoughts. Seiya totally vibed with how these mindless little puppets blindly followed his every single command. Abe thought hyping over some toys was super weird, but Seiya basically told him he was completely clueless. This was never some toy obsession. It was all about Manori Kiru. He was crazy for her, totally planning to use them for his absolute darkest little games. Thanks to his intensely manipulative mindset, he genuinely felt like she was his literal property. Kira pointed out his massive dependency rather than obsession, while Haruto straight up called Seiya the absolute lowest tier of garbage. Jumping to now, the actual Minori and her exact copy locked eyes, completely shook. Catching this wild double take, our guy quickly asked if his sis was doing all right. The duplicates spilled the secret, revealing Ishiki was still secretly controlling around 12 other copies of her. She dropped a huge bombshell. Even though they were built to be totally heartless robots, every single one actually felt real emotions. The copy couldn't quite put it into words, but catching the actual Minori on television completely flipped her entire world upside down. A spark of warmth finally hit her. Right then, it clicked. Every ounce of her rage and toxic energy was aimed straight at Ishiki Seiya. The second she processed those feelings, she bolted from that creepy estate. She spilled everything, saying there were more girls trapped inside and begging for a rescue squad. Is greater than music. Is greater than. Our hero then cooked up a wild plan, weaponized the duplicates to take Seiya out entirely. She was super confused, but he broke it down. Ishiki was clueless about their feelings, meaning his guard would be totally down. It was the perfect ambush. But Manori questioned the fallout if they got busted. When he dropped the truth bomb. Music, admitting the worst-case scenario meant everyone dying. His sister absolutely lost it. She smacked Shin Makoto right across the cheek, screaming that those copies didn't ask to exist. They were alive now, not disposable meat shields. Since they literally shared her DNA, they were practically her own flesh and blood. Hearing her siblings beg for an exit, obviously she was going to bust them out. She called him out hard, demanding to know if treating them as cannon fodder was really the ultimate payback against Seiya. Guilt slammed into our guy hard. Doing this would make him just as twisted as those Byakurin freaks. The duplicate stepped up, vowing they'd pull every single girl out of there. Trying to make things right, our boy promised to personally wreck Seiya for treating her family like garbage. Saying sorry for freaking her out, he agreed to crash the estate together. The duo hopped through the rift, exiting the woods straight toward enemy territory. Cut to Seiya, who was busy torturing one of the copies. He was raging that a so-called brainless dummy actually broke out, so he made the rest suffer for letting her slip. He barked at them to track the runaway down immediately, and they instantly scrambled to obey. Minori's identicals sprinted downtown, tailing someone in a hood. The chase dragged until the target tripped on a crate, totally killing her momentum. The pack instantly pounced, tackling her hard into the concrete. They radioed in the successful grab and started dragging her back. Chilling on a rooftop, the sibling duo watched the whole takedown. He smirked, knowing the fake-out breakout worked perfectly to draw them out. It was go time. He literally detached an ear for Manori to hold, while she drew a cross on her cheek to play the ultimate decoy. Thanks to his insane flesh-warping powers, he could eavesdrop on the entire crib through that severed piece. If things got sketchy, he'd teleport right in for backup. Pulling up to Ishiki's ridiculously massive crib, the squad pounded on the entrance, bragging about bagging the runaway. Seiya aggressively interrogated number 10 about why she bolted. Playing the victim, Manori fake cried about chasing some weird shadow, promising she handled it and wouldn't cause drama again. He threatened to permanently trash her if she pulled a stunt like that again. Right then, Haruto video called Seiya, demanding he scrap her before he got back. The girls moved in, while our guy wiretapped the whole chat. The squad dragged Manori straight to the execution room. Dead copies were piled up dead center, totally traumatizing the poor girl. As the rest casually tossed the bodies like trash, Manori broke down, horrified by how messed up this nightmare actually was. Copy 10 begged number 3 to ditch this place before dying too, but 3 just blankly asked why, claiming they were literally born to serve. Manori desperately tried hyping everyone up for a mass breakout, screaming at them to realize what was happening. They just robotically claimed they were taking out the trash. She snapped back that staying meant zero happiness, frantically trying to break their brainwashing. But the girls just stared, asking what joy even meant. They were literal pawns, no brains, no choices, just following orders. Their only vibe was getting used, abused, and giving up their bodies on command. Hearing them talk like mere tools made our boy fiercely despise that rat, Seiya. Refusing to accept this toxic mindset, Manori yelled that she understood them perfectly and pulled her lookalikes into a massive hug. She felt their silent agony and knew they were hurting deep down. The trapped girl begged her to back off, but Manori clamped on tighter, swearing they actually possessed real souls and emotions. They were just too locked up to show it. She vowed to rip them out of this hellhole. Number 3 was confused, yet felt a tiny spark inside. Suddenly, Ishiki Seiya booted the door down, shutting it all down. He coldly barked that she never had permission to yap. Furious, he struck them hard across the cheek, declaring copy number 10 a complete glitch that had to be trashed immediately. Watching this horror unfold slammed Manori with traumatic flashbacks from her own brutal lockdown at the Byakurin facility. Catching the girl's pure death glare, Seiya whipped out his blade. Out of nowhere, another duplicate begged their boss to back off. For daring to speak up, he brutally smashed clone number 3 right in the face, using the heavy handle of his weapon. Annoyed that these puppets were suddenly acting self-aware, he totally lost his patience and decided to just wipe the entire squad out. Right as his weapon slashed toward number 3, the real Manori threw herself in the way, leaving Ishiki completely stunned by her heroic sacrifice. But the moment he caught the scent and taste of her crimson drops, an eerie sense of familiarity hit him hard. She went in for a desperate strike, but he easily outpaced her, plunging his wicked blade straight through the real Manori. It finally clicked that he just struck the actual Kiryu Manori. Hearing this tragedy through his magic link, Shin instantly launched a desperate rescue. Luring past all defenses, He forcefully crashed his way straight into Ishiki's massive estate. Sirens blared as the villain realized Minori's sibling had arrived, loudly bragging that Shin was walking into a total nightmare of endlessly armed identical guards. Every single one of these elite warrior copies wore the exact same face as his precious little sister. The bad guy smugly watched to see his limits, while our hero slickly weaved through a relentless storm of deadly spear thrusts. He smoothly dodged every swing until a sneaky blindside hit completely sliced off his arm. Just another casual day for him. Out of absolute nowhere, copy number 10 jumped in to save him, violently shoving his attacker out of the way. When another duplicate yelled at number 10 for rebelling, she firmly clapped back that Shin was technically the big brother to their whole squad. The loyal fighter fiercely replied that she 0% cared, since their boss commanded them to slaughter any trespassers with zero excuses. By choosing to defend a trespasser, number 10 instantly threw away her status and got marked as a total traitor to be hunted down. The identical army readied their weapons to execute her. But right in the nick of time, Shin bounced back and snatched his signature mask. The second it touches his face, a massive wave of power erupts. He tells clone number 10 to step back and let him take over. Meanwhile, Seiya brutally strikes Minori, laughing like a maniac at her screams. He violently yanks her hair, absolutely intoxicated by the thrill of the hunt, sending her flying with a massive hit. He actually thanks them for taking out Chakara and Taru, admitting those two were getting seriously annoying. Anyway, he mocks her for coming back. Why return after pulling off a miracle escape? Did she seriously miss being his little toy? Before she can even blink, he delivers a brutal kick right to her jaw. Boiling with absolute rage over how he treated her and the copies, Minori scrambles up, gripping her blade. She screams that he is completely dead to her. Seiya just smirks. Is this supposed to be payback for all those years of misery? He finds it hilarious that she went entirely off script just to play hero for some duplicates. To drive the sick joke home, he snatches up clone number 3 and mercilessly executes her right in front of Minori. Absolutely shattered, she shrieks and lunges wildly with her blade. But against a master swordsman like him, she does not even leave a scratch. Flexing his total dominance, he uses that legendary blue blade to absolutely cripple her defenses, kicking her to the curb like trash. He casually reminds her that these copies are not real people, just disposable toys meant to be broken. And, just to rub it in, he instantly wipes out another one, desperately trying to shield the fallen girl. Our heroine glares at him with pure venom. Honestly, that look of utter hopelessness is exactly what gets him going. The very second Minori dives in to block a strike meant for another copy, he swings that blade again. Taking a catastrophic hit, she still manages to chant a spell, desperately screaming at the monster to freeze. But Seiya just laughs it off, claiming she still does not get how this works. These things she is risking her life for? Just worthless, throwaway puppets. Thrilled by her pathetic struggle, he chuckles and tells her to beg like she means it. He coldly commands Minori to bow her head straight to the dirt. When she shoots back a death glare and refuses, he immediately runs his sword right through another copy. He taunts her, asking if she really wants them all to perish. Suddenly losing his temper, he fiercely roars at her to submit. He makes it crystal clear, refuse to kneel, and the slaughter continues. He backs it up instantly, tossing daggers to drop her duplicates one after another. Broken at last, she crashes to her knees and pleads for mercy. Striking down yet another copy, he sneers, asking if that is the best begging she can do. Forehead practically glued to the floor, she completely shatters, desperately pleading with him to end the nightmare for her copies. The guy smirks, offering a twisted deal. She has to become his new toy to replace his broken ones. Flashing his blade, he demands she kiss his shoes, making it absolutely clear backing down is not an option. Nudging her with the sharp edge, he lays down the absolute law that when he is around, her only response is a strict, "Yes, sir." Completely terrified, Minori caves in and shakily nods along. Pushing a door open, he keeps the weapon locked onto her. With zero hesitation, he pulls a cruel move and permanently steals her voice in one brutal flash. The freak actually pops the horrific prize into his mouth, gulping it down while bragging about the totally sickening flavor. Snatching her collar, he swears she is trapped and starts getting aggressively handsy with her outfit. Pressing the cold steel to her throat, he begs for that pure panic, daring her to push back and fight, cue the intense background beats, just to force her total surrender. But right before things go completely dark, the creep gets absolutely rocked with a massive right hook. Enter our main guy, Shin, dropping in with that flawless knockout strike. Ignoring the trash he just floored, he immediately scrambles over to make sure his sister is breathing. Her relieved expression says it all. She totally knew her big bro had her back. Stumbling to his feet, a furious Ishiki demands to know what happened to his mansion guards. Shin fires back that he would never hurt those copies. Since they share his sister's DNA, it was super tough, but he still managed to take every single one down. Seiya thinks his whole vibe is super lame, bragging he would have used those puppets way more creatively, like keeping them as personal playthings to completely traumatize their brother on repeat. But our guy claps back, saying it will be way sicker to utterly wreck him 1,000,000 times instead. Shin throws another massive hook, but Seiya shields it with his blade, only tanking the shockwave. The bad guy finally gets how he wrecked those copies with such insane power. Music. Right after, he tosses him aside and unleashes a flashy lightning blade combo. The brutal slash completely rips off one of Shin's arms. But get this, the chopped off arm gets wrapped in psychic energy and shoots straight at Ishiki. That flying limb delivers an insanely heavy punch, blasting the villain away and totally obliterating the surrounding zone. Once they hit the main hallway, Seiya commands the fakes to act as his personal meat shield. Shin calls him a total loser for hiding behind the same puppets he abused. Seiya just snaps back that how he plays with his toys literally means nothing. Since he literally owns them, he kills the chat and sends the girls to jump Shin. He weaves through the strikes, but seeing his real sister's face in every attacker just makes his blood totally boil. Manori yells out a warning but gets totally blindsided. Seeing her drop completely wrecks Shin's focus, giving the lookalikes the perfect chance to pin him to the floor. He thrashes around, yelling at them to back off, completely freaking out while watching his sister take a brutal beating right in front of him. Right then, Ishiki Seiya completely blindsides our guy with a massive, crushing strike to the back. The bad guy totally gloats, mocking Shin for failing as a big brother. Instead of arguing, our guy just apologizes for letting his sister and the copies get hurt, since one caught the crossfire, but copy number 3 just brushes it off, claiming she was literally built to be a living shield. Ishiki rudely cuts in, snapping that her only job is taking orders. Shin's intense death glare sets him off, sparking a wild frenzy of strikes that our boy easily sidesteps. Shin leaps up to grab the high ground, so Seiya immediately plays dirty, swearing he will permanently erase one of the lookalikes. Seiya swings a vicious strike right at the girl, but Shin dives into the crosshairs at the very last second and completely tanks the hit. Pressing his advantage, the bad guy taunts him for giving up. The catch? If Shin throws even one single punch, his actual sister gets the punishment instead. Seiya hefts his massive blade and unleashes a totally brutal gale attack, completely wrecking our hero and leaving him in absolute ruins. While Shin lies completely wrecked on the floor, Seiya cruelly promises to make him spectate while he absolutely ruins his sister's life. Music. Seiya lands a disrespectful kick, but Shin springs right back to his feet in a flash, his body magically pulling itself back together. Ishiki talks trash, calling him a worthless zombie, but Shin instantly steps up to shield every single copy. When the girls ask why he cares, he drops the sweetest truth bomb. Saving them means saving his sister. Seiya just laughs it off, claiming they are nothing but fake, high-tech lab puppets, completely different from his actual sibling. Treating them like total property, he barks out a harsh command for the girls to wipe Shin off the map right then and there. Losing his cool, Seiya frantically screams at them to listen. But the girls finally see the big picture, and instead of moving, they just give him absolute silence. The copies finally grasp where they came from and why this guy goes so hard to keep them safe. Suddenly, spotting the true villain, they start closing in on the Byakurin boss. They totally flip the script on Seiya for messing with their big bro, leaving the bad guy absolutely sweating as his own weapons rebel. The second they fully accept that they are literal reflections of Kiryu Minori, it hits them hard. They are actual, breathing girls tied to the exact same soul, linked super closely to the real deal. Thanks to that incredible bond, all the amazing memories the real Minori lived through start flashing right inside their own heads, showing flashbacks of their big bro Shin, risking everything to keep them safe. Shin figures out her body manipulation skill actually lets her command her own severed body parts. Minori accidentally synced memories with her genetic clones. Seiya totally snaps, screaming at the dolls to fall in line because he is the boss. They were programmed to obey him, but now anybody trying to mess with their brother is dead meat. Ishiki whips out his blade, swearing to slice everybody in the room into ribbons, but Shin totally shuts that down, delivering an absolute haymaker to the dude. While he drops, a spear-swinging Manori copy ambushes Seiya. With the creep completely wrecked, Shin steps up and casually asks how to end this guy. Like they agreed on earlier, the real Minori wants to handle things herself. Getting payback herself was the only option. The copies completely pinned down Ishiki's limbs, while he desperately cries for them to let go. Manori straight up spawns a massive hammer, swinging that ridiculously huge gear right at him. Just one hit could never fix her anger though. Kiryu Manori plans to absolutely wreck him before he goes quiet. Copy number 10 suddenly steps in, explaining the insane agony they all went through when Seiya took out dozens of their squad earlier. She insists he experiences that exact same nightmare, wanting Ishiki to really pay the price. Shin totally gets the trauma of them getting constantly wiped out. It was a literal living nightmare. Turns out, deep down in that creepy basement, they kept a wild dungeon beast pumped full of stuff to completely ruin anyone, even guys, just like that hunter who fought Seiya. Everyone decides this savage payback is perfect. Minori and Shin follow number 10 downstairs, locking the absolute jerk up with some heavy-duty metal chains. Freaking out completely, Ishiki stares as the cage unlocks. A massive emperor orc steps out, making the fake hero literally cry from pure panic. Rumor says just one of these absolute units could build a whole nation. At first, this monster was strictly into going after the girls, but thanks to Byakurin's weird science stuff, it goes after dudes too. Minori gets totally grossed out, and Shin just looks away quickly. Right as the beast lunges at Ishiki, with a super creepy hungry look, they shut the door on that traumatizing view. Minori and her bro look super drained, desperately needing sleep. The copies suggest making some tea, giving Shin massive props for the rescue, and for sparing their lives during that intense fight. Number 10 feels incredibly thankful. Unsure how to handle their sibling energy, he takes the compliment and requests a house tour to grab snacks and scoop up dirt on the Byakurin squad while they can. Copy 3 gives the tour while 10 stays put until the messy payback finishes. While chatting it up in the hallway, the clone admits she is totally clueless about her future, feeling trapped by her creation and scared society will just cancel them completely. Shin reassures her that is bogus, since he already accepts them. He promises they do not need some deep philosophical reason for existing. Just surviving is enough. Number 3 swears she will live her best life. But then, completely out of nowhere, she gets cleanly slashed down, wiped out right in front of him. Kira Haruto suddenly drops in, breaking his long absence from our guy. Getting there meant this Byakurin warrior had already dusted every single copy. Staring Shin down with a totally creepy grin, he mocks their touching reunion, casually adding that everyone in the room still needs to get dropped. Whipping out a flawless sword swing, he slices both of Shin's hands off, teasing his terribly slow reflexes. While his lost hands literally grow back, our main guy rushes in swinging a glowing magic hook, but misses the dodge completely. Haruto thinks he is basically moving in slow motion. Shin spams attacks, whiffing everything. Kira points out that mindless swinging is totally pointless, deciding to show off real skills. Charging up a blast, he wrecks half the crib and torches Shin's arms. Catching all that crazy damage, Makoto labels him a total beast. Kira just laughs, finding an Immortal's panic hilarious. Rocking a busted arm, our boy tries to trigger his healing factor super fast right then, but he starts panicking hard when his powers glitch out. Kira smirks, flexing that his cursed blade literally shuts down healing. Our guy feels genuine terror because Kira hits way differently than the other Byakurin members, blanking on any winning strategy. His only goal now is securing his sister's escape route. He honestly could care less if he bites the dust doing it. Shin questions how he found this hiding spot. Kira casually says Ishiki went ghost, so he pulled up to check and found Makoto. Talk about insanely clutch for Kira, but tragic for our protagonist. Haruto then asks who else is chilling in the house. Noticing our guy slipped up and used plural words earlier, the fake hero totally knows the sister is around, yet could care less about his dusted team. Honestly, he is actually hyped his guildmates got wrecked. Realizing Shin's squad must have farmed massive X by dropping S-rank players. That basically means wiping them out now. Gives Kira a massive level boost. Our hero realizes this dude is unhinged. That fake hero totally ignores the point. Quicker than a blink, he teleports right behind our guy, driving his blade straight through his gut. Shin crashes to the dirt, completely wrecked by the hit, while Kira's stats suddenly skyrocket through the roof. The villain is absolutely buzzing with power. But guess what? Shin isn't tapping out just yet. He drops a binding hex right on Kira's boots, promising to take him down no matter what. Kira flexes his holy sanctuary shield, blasting our boy across the room while bragging about being totally invincible. Our main guy is way underleveled to even scratch him. He's getting totally trashed, leaking life force way faster than his healing factor can fix. Out of nowhere, the bad guy actually throws him a lifeline. Just give up without a fight, and his sister stays safe. Keep throwing punches? They both get thrown in cages. Calling his bluff, Shin hesitates, but Haruto claims it's all on him. Completely freaking out, Shin drops to his knees begging to be the only prisoner. Pleading for his sister's safety just makes Kira burst into laughter, totally roasting the dude for having zero self-respect left. Shocking, absolutely nobody. Kira was completely bluffing and meant to waste them both anyway. Furious, our guy screams, launching a wild punch that the villain easily sidesteps. Right then, the real Manori crashes the party, backed up by every single surviving clone, ready to defend their bro. Haruto actually seems impressed, noticing our hero managed to keep a decent chunk of them alive this whole time. Seeing Manori jump in, Shin screams at them to back off before they get absolutely demolished. The copies start dropping like flies, but they yell out that distracting the bad guy is enough if it gets the duo to safety. With Haruto moving in for the finish, the squad lays it all on the line, paying him back for busting them out of their nightmare. One copy clutches it out with a super fast warp spell, yeeting both siblings totally out of harm's way. Whiffing his strike, Kira realizes that kind of magic burns massive energy. Staring at the fainted spellcaster, he admits things just got messy. Still, he's fully aware that even if the whole squad jumped him together, they wouldn't even leave a scratch. Out of nowhere, one of the girls tears her top open, exposing a crazy backup feature hardwired into her system. Let's be real, Ishiki only ever saw them as disposable tools anyway. Clone number 10 triggers an organic magic nuke, unleashing all the spirit power packed inside her chest crystal. Using the very last of their juice, they shout a quick thanks to Shin and Manori before going super critical. That blast absolutely levels the whole estate. Meanwhile, Sigiri was basically known as the most gorgeous girl in the Byakurin crew. Between her insane visuals, sweet vibes, and totally chill personality, literally everyone was crushing on her hard. But catching her alone was a massive mistake, because that's when you'd stumble onto her super dark reality. Take that one dude who accidentally walked in on her swimming in red juice and saw her actual crazy side. 6 months back, she sneaked down into the crew's hidden bunker. Walking right into the siblings' lockup cell, she immediately measured how much life force they had drained so far. Annoyed that the tank was only 50% full, she cranked the draining machine into overdrive. The second the gear stalled, she marched over to the dashboard and forcefully rebooted the whole system. Trapped and terrified, the duo watched a massive turbine spawn right beneath their feet, its blades revved up to max speed, leaving them screaming as they faced getting totally shredded. Standing there watching the horror show, the magic user just laughed like an absolute psycho. Sure, pulling this stunt wouldn't boost her stats at all, but she couldn't care less. Getting her hands on that fresh tomato sauce was the only thing that mattered. She used to think undying folks would look super gross and decayed, not rocking absolute flawless complexions. It didn't matter how badly they got wrecked, their bodies constantly healed back to looking completely picture perfect. That's literally the ultimate flex, never aging. With permanent top-tier looks, scoring rich dudes and endless cash would be a total breeze. Honestly, she was insanely jealous that these two just naturally woke up with that kind of broken superpower. Sipping on their life essence was literally all it took to keep her glowing and eternally gorgeous. Having cracked the cheat code for immortality, she craved every last drop of that premium red stuff. Meanwhile, Boss Kira was just smirking in the background, totally loving it. Snapping back to right now, the boss rolls up to the spot only to realize his prized prisoners are completely gone. Thinking they actually pulled off a jailbreak, Kira hits up Ya, faking feeling bad about it. But the sorceress is absolutely losing her mind. Screaming through the comms, she demands to know where her targets went and why he hasn't bagged them already. Kira drops the news that they wrecked Seiya and bolted, but she totally ignores that part. She just barks at him to drag them back immediately. The boss is super confused by her panic, pointing out they've still got a massive stash of juice sitting in storage. But she fires back that the red stuff has to be totally fresh to work its magic, because without hitting that supply constantly, she was terrified of losing her young, gorgeous looks. Kira totally brushed it off, just groaning that her constant screeching was giving him a massive headache. Ya snapped back, calling him completely worthless, demanding he quit goofing off and hunt down those runaways right now. Kira's face went dead serious. He shot back, asking who made her the boss. If she was so ridiculously thirsty for their blood, she could go catch them her damn self. Pushing her buttons even more, Kira teased that all this raging stress was just gonna give her terrible wrinkles. That absolutely set her off. Pure fury literally set the ground blazing all around her. Burning with anger, the sorceress swore she'd hunt the pair down personally. Cut to somewhere pitch black, Haruto finally snaps awake, asking his sister where the heck they landed. She told him the clones completely trashed the gate area with explosives, and somehow they woke up trapped inside a creepy dungeon. Freaking out, our guy immediately asks if the rest made it. Minori's eyes just dropped, looking totally heartbroken. It crushed him. He couldn't save his crew, completely shattering the massive promise he swore to keep. Seeing him so wrecked with guilt, Manori wrapped him in a huge hug. She promised they all understood, knowing he put everything on the line just to keep her safe. Haruto just kept beating himself up for letting them die, burning with this crazy need to somehow make things right. Through his sister, the clone's final emotions flooded his mind. Haruto finally got it. They actually chose to stick by her until the bitter end. Through straight-up tears, Manori promised. They all heard his last words. Hearing they wanted him to survive, for their sake, hit him right in the feels. Right now, though, he just felt completely pathetic. He wanted to get ridiculously overpowered. His sister was absolutely on the same page. Gripping his hand hard, they locked in their promise to level up side by side. While he was knocked out cold, Byakurin dropped a massive broadcast about them. Manori thought it was a death notice, but it turned out to be way more insane. The price on their heads just skyrocketed to 5 billion each. Every tracker alive is gunning for them now. They had to bail from this dungeon as soon as possible, since bounty hunters could easily trace their warp jumps. Navigating a super twisted tunnel, they finally spotted the exit, glowing with this crazy blinding light. Suddenly, Haruto blocked Manori, yelling at her to freeze. A massive, freaky eyeball just blocked out the entire exit. Music. Then the whole beast stepped out of the shadows. A stupidly huge, nightmare-fueled dragon. Manori screamed at him to sprint back inside the cave, but he was totally locked in on doing the exact opposite. Right at that music moment, the beast unleashed a massive blast of flames that launched them backward. After the insane crash, the monster took to the skies, circling them. It hit them. This was an ultra-high-tier boss. A beast like that had zero business roaming free outside a labyrinth. No idea why a literal dragon was chilling out here, but they totally knew taking it head-on was straight-up suicide. The duo started dodging insane waves of hellfire, sprinting for their lives. They spotted a town and finally thought they had a safe zone. Dragons usually ignore human spots, right? Wrong. They watched in pure shock as the beast just nuked half the city with one fiery breath. That inferno pushes past music 3,000 degrees, literally melting anything stupid enough to be in its way. Plus, its scales can bounce off straight-up artillery rounds, making the thing basically a flying tank. You'd literally need an alliance of top-tier guilds just to have a ghost of a chance against this thing. Staring down this absolute unit, the two had zero clue how to ditch it. Then Shinn pitched a totally wild idea. Just jump the boss. Manori looked at him like he lost his mind. But our guy was dead set on slaying the beast for a massive XP boost. He hit her with a reality check about their promise. If they chickened out now, beating Kira was a complete pipe dream. Shinn blitzed the left flank while Manori flanked right. The boss spewed another fire blast as our boy hunted for a blind spot. He snapped on his mask, triggered a massive buff spell, and just sprinted straight at the beast. Shinn dive-bombed the boss from the sky, kicking off a totally insane mid-air brawl. Big monster means big weak spot, the brain. He absolutely decked the dragon in the skull, making the massive beast stumble and see stars. His fist was drenched in monster blood, but those armor-plated scales were so tough, his hand was throbbing in pure agony. Realizing she had to target the tiny cracks in its armor, Manori dashed in for the kill. She jammed her blade into a weak point, but the beast just shrugged it off and swatted her with its massive tail. After launching the girl like a ragdoll, the monster locked onto Shinn, charging up another hellish blast. Shinn took the blast right to the face, but his sister jumped in to cover him. Completely ignoring them, the beast fired off a super twisted red beam, forcing Manori to pop a magic shield. Even with her barrier up, the shock wave ripped right through, totally mangling her hand. Those messed up black flames actually ate her mana, continuing to scorch her skin. Screaming in pain, the memory of her fallen crew flashed in her mind, turning her agony into straight-up fuel. Craving absolute power, she literally tears off her burning arm to kill the agony and stop the fire from spreading. She stares down the beast while her bro staggers up, shouting that round 2 is just starting. Getting his skeleton completely liquefied like this? Yeah, definitely a first for him. Honestly, he figured a dragon's breath would be this insane. Fully healed up, he casually tears off his own hand, juices it with magic, and yeets it straight at the beast. That glowing, severed hand smashes into the monster with insane power, and for the first time, the giant lizard actually shrieks in pure agony. Spotting the perfect opening, Shinn screams for his sis to go in, and she instantly sprints full speed at the enemy. Knowing her current spells won't cut it, the girl lets out a massive battle cry as she rushes the giant reptile. Manori goes all out, blasting the target with her ultimate dark fire spell. The giant reptile shrieks in agony, and visibly starts losing steam. Right after, our guy flashes directly in its face, molding his chopped body parts into one crazy weapon and packing all his juice into a single spot. That intensely focused combo attack shreds right through the creature's thick armor. He follows up by bashing its skull with a colossal hit, forcing one last death shriek out of the monster. The impact crushes the beast straight into the dirt, killing it instantly, and our hero bags a bunch of level ups from the epic win. The duo feels super hyped after taking down the beast. Manori actually feels like surviving those insane flames totally unlocked her hidden powers. Catching their breath, they start wondering why a giant lizard was even chilling there, considering the spot was completely empty when they passed by earlier. Our main guy figures out someone was totally mind-controlling the beast, all thanks to that creepy purple glow in its eyes. It was the exact same creepy aura they saw when they were brainwashed during that awful torture session. Honestly, dragging a monster that wild into a trance? That had to be the work of that twisted magic user. The second he drops her name, a bunch of flying reptiles swarm the island sky. Up on one of them, two fancy-looking dudes with swords are just chilling. They leap down and immediately rush our hero and Manori, making it super obvious they are probably brainwashed too. One of the dudes literally chucks his blade right at the girl, but she smoothly dodge rolls out of the way. Absolutely furious, our guy lands a punch that sends the attacker flying into next week. Right after, a massive reptile shows up, charging up a seriously scary blast. When the blast drops, it completely wipes out the area, and our guy realizes the explosion is way more massive than anything the previous beasts pulled off. That basically proves their hiding spot is busted, and a ton of new enemies are starting to swarm them. Shinn decides to solo the giant lizard, telling Manori to keep those creepy, brainwashed hunters off his back. Peeking at how busted their stats actually are, Shinn aggressively tells her to fall back immediately. Feeling guilty for almost getting her killed, he promises to handle the whole squad, but Manori is totally terrified to let her big bro fight alone. Having a sudden flashback to that messy fight with Seiya at the mansion, a light bulb goes off. She tells her bro there is zero chance she's letting him fly solo anymore. After all, this whole thing is their payback mission. Teaming up, they rush the squad of hunters with their spells blazing. Spamming her flame spells, Manori totally roasts 3 of those dudes in one go. While the beast charges a freezing blast, Shinn sprints right into it and gets hit point blank. Missing half his torso, he wildly uses flesh magic to weaponize his own detached chunks. Sadly, the giant reptile aggressively chomps down on his legs, totally canceling his combo. Playing it smart, Shinn pumps the creature full of toxic magic, making it thrash in pure agony before dropping dead, which scores him a massive pile of levels. The brainwashed squad keeps spamming attacks at Manori, but she smoothly weaves past every single hit. Spotting even more goons dropping from the sky, she throws up a magical barrier just to survive, but totally gets blindsided by a stab to the back. Knowing she is wildly outnumbered, she completely stops holding back and drops a massive dark fire area of effect spell, catching a bunch of them at once. She yells at her bro to wrap this up fast before they take lasting damage. Crazy enough, even while cooking in dark flames, the hunters still manage to stand back up. That twisted mind control forces them into total obedience, making them act like literal zombies staying on their feet, despite being super wrecked out of nowhere. Every single brainwashed monster and goon starts aggressively falling back. They all line up perfectly, flying lizards included, just waiting for Sagiri A to pop out of a portal. The duo quickly notices that Kira definitely didn't tag along. Acting super cocky, the girl totally thinks she can solo them both. She casually admits she hijacked her minions' 5 senses, which is exactly how she sniped their location on the island. He sarcastically points out she's got serious guts rolling up on them without Kira Haruto backing her up. She claps back, claiming she doesn't need backup to crush 2 complete scrubs. Igniting her dark fire, Manori warns that acting that cocky usually brings a brutal reality check. She throws a fierce blast at the magic user, but the villain casually deletes the spell and literally doesn't take a single scratch. Turns out, the twisted girl literally used a wall of living humans as meat shields to tank the hit. That completely triggers Manori, driving her to tears over how little this psycho cares about people. As one of the used hunters drops dead, the villain just smirks and calls human lives totally worthless. In her twisted mind, as long as she stays gorgeous and overpowered, nothing else matters. Everyone else is just garbage meant to be thrown away. Manori thinks all lives are totally equal, but the mage is not having it. Ya claims they are living a total fantasy and decides to burst their bubble, blasting a massive purple lightning strike that craters the ground between them. Just as Shin Makoto dives to rescue his sister, Ya intercepts, teasing he should watch his own back. She casts a hypnotic charm and kisses him straight on the lips. Shin Makoto's eyes glow purple under Ya's total control, leaving his sister absolutely horrified. The mage smirks, calling him lucky since he gets to stay young and brainwashed forever. Absolutely pissed that her brother got hypnotized, Manori straight up rushes the mage. She thrusts her blade forward, but her own brother leaps in to tank the hit. The mage plays mind games, taunting her about stabbing her own flesh and blood. When Manori goes for round 2, Ya forces Shin to deliver a crushing punch. Manori barely dodges and screams his name, desperately trying to snap him out of it. She begs him to wake up, but Ya laughs it off. The only way to break the mind control is to overpower the magic or literally take out the caster. Acting as his puppet master, Ya commands Shin to strike, and he unleashes a flurry of kicks at Manori. He knocks her back, closes the gap, and nails her with a brutal right hook. Ya absolutely loves watching Manori get emotionally wrecked by her older, way stronger brother beating her down. Gripping her knife, Manori knows she has to fight back to survive, but locking eyes with him triggers sudden flashbacks of his absolute sweetest moments. The memory totally throws her off, leaving her wide open for a massive strike. Sprawled out and weaponless, she feels completely helpless against Shin. He grabs her by the throat, hoisting her into the air and crushing her spirit. Old memories flood her mind, her big brother defending her, and that ultimate childhood promise they made to get strong side by side. Barely hanging on, Minori whispered something under her breath. Then, totally blinded by rage, she screamed her lungs out, swearing to take that witch down. Abe told Shin Makoto to completely wreck his sister, but Minori moved faster, slicing his arms and legs right off. Saying sorry to her big bro while dodging his strikes, she instantly unleashed a massive wave of blasting dark fire everywhere. Ya casually slipped through a portal to dodge it. Minori used to think just hiding behind her brother meant totally safe vibes. That just wasn't cutting it anymore. To stay alive, she went total Ice Queen, literally dismantling his arms and popping off his head. Crazy enough, Shin kept swinging headless and actually managed to clock his sister right in the face. She literally felt all his regret and totally sad vibes through that hit. Honestly, Minori was the one who needed to say sorry. Like, she'd been super weak and was always holding him back. But all of that was officially over right now. She was finally getting the power to watch her brother's back, too. Mid-fight, she seriously leveled up and wrapped him in a huge hug. Holding him tight, she promised to get super tough before literally bursting with magical energy, totally engulfing Shin Makoto in the blast. Right after that wild sacrifice, Ya tried swooping in to harvest the life essence from both siblings. She wanted to scoop them up as soon as possible, and got super annoyed when all that thick smoke completely blocked her view. Then, Minori's voice echoed through the haze, calling Ya out for completely doubting she had the guts to fight Shin. Honestly, back when they broke out of that nightmare zone, they had already taken each other out like a million times. An insane wave of magical energy started rolling off the girl as she flexed that her mind was made up ages ago. Shin Makoto gave his sis a massive shout-out for breaking the mind control, so they could finally team up. Catching on to the broken spell, Ya got ready to scramble his brain all over again. Ya immediately resurrected every single fallen hunter and dragon, sending the whole squad straight at the duo. Rocking her major power-up, Minori flawlessly parried a heavy sword strike with just her dagger. Her bro absolutely wiped out the hunter, but a dragon almost roasted him alive right after, until Minori clutched up with an epic shield spell. Following that up, she unleashed those dark flames to completely vaporize the beast. That twisted mage stood the entire zombie crew back up, bragging that resisting was pointless since they'd keep swarming until their pulses flatlined forever. He totally got that unless they took them out for real, these guys would just keep respawning. The brother-sister duo kept fighting those mind-controlled creeps, acting like literal zombies. One guy soaked up massive damage and somehow stayed standing, even with half his face totally gone. His sis realized magic wasn't powering them, telling him to just smash them down. He caught her drift, instantly charging up his fists with pure magical energy to strike. Right in the middle of the crazy brawl, this furious dragon swooped in. Ya was riding it, and the beast totally pinned our guy into the dirt. Grabbing her chance, she fired off another mind control spell, totally bragging that absolutely nobody breaks her trance. Ya just laughed it off, totally convinced the fight had completely drained his energy and powers. Thinking he was an easy target for her mind trick, she commanded him to take out Manori. He dropped to one knee, charging up a glowing attack. She yelled at him to obey, but plot twist, he just clocked the villain right in the jaw instead. Sprawled out on the floor, she was absolutely stunned, finally getting that her mind control was useless. The duo had totally leveled up, making her tricks completely irrelevant. Spitting out broken teeth, Ya couldn't believe he broke free. going absolutely ballistic. She started spamming heavy attacks to wipe them off the map. Manori just threw up a barrier, tanking every single hit like it was nothing, flexing that they literally couldn't be taken down. This made Ya lose her mind even more, summoning a crazy storm of elemental meteors straight at the duo. None of it left a scratch. Kiryu blocked the whole barrage, then fired back with that dark beam move. The witch tried to block, but the shadowy blast just ripped right through her barrier. She was tripping out over the fact she was actually losing. The blast slammed right into her, scorching her up. Ya started sizzling and shrieking in pure agony, the exact same nightmare Manori had dealt with way too many times. Thanks to that spell, whatever the siblings went through was a joke compared to this. The younger sister wanted her to get a real taste of her own medicine. To pull it off, she flipped the villain's mind control back on her, locking her inside an endless nightmare loop. Eventually, Ya snapped awake, strapped down in the exact same tank where she used to torment the duo. Realizing exactly where she was, total panic set in, and she started screaming to be let out, even while chained up. She yelled for them to hand over the loot, then desperately tried spamming lightning, meteors, water blasts, wind blades, basically everything in her arsenal. She was freaking out over why nothing worked, then spotted our guy and started hollering to get his attention. Catching him typing away at the console, she started losing it, begging to know what his master plan was. Then he just casually smashes the red button. The blades underneath her spin up, dragging the villain right into the shredder. Within seconds, she gets caught in the gears, howling from the absolute worst pain imaginable. She gets totally wrecked, but suddenly gasps awake, hoping it was just a bad dream. Nope, she is right back in the tank, realizing every ounce of that pain was real. She starts begging for mercy, but our guy just points up at a glowing digital counter. Then it clicks for her. Cue the background track. That massive number? It is exactly how many times the duo got put through that same brutal grinder. She realizes she is stuck repeating this nightmare for every single tick on that board. He hits the button again, and the screaming starts over. After what feels like forever, she wakes up one last time, knowing she finally paid back their entire debt of suffering. Ya is totally convinced the nightmare is over, and she is heading back to reality. Her immediate plan? Wake up and completely destroy the duo. But then the counter rolls right back to zero, and her whole world totally crumbles. Just when she thought she was clear, that button gets pushed, sending her right back into the screaming loop. She is completely devastated that the cycle is restarting. Back in the real world, the duo watches as the villain's actual body starts shriveling up like a raisin. It hits them that this is her real face. She was totally faking her glow up with magic all along, hiding the fact she is over a century old. Our guy breaks it down, saying she has actually been kicking around for about 150 years. Once she found the Undying clan, she figured out that swiping their life energy worked like a permanent anti-aging cheat code. That is why she was such a total creep about them and staying young forever. Even after going through all that agony, she still refused to let go. The brother figures if they just ditch her there, time is finally going to catch up and finish the job. He decides she is not even worth finishing off and turns to bounce, but his sister spots a random sparkle nearby. She scoops up a charm, instantly recognizing it as the gadget the villain used to mind control families. Locking in, she decides it is time to shut down this toxic cycle for good. Meanwhile, the villain is spaced out, losing track of days. She knows her time is running out. Out of nowhere, Haruto pulls up, tracking her vibe, and finds her basically on her way out. She practically begs him to just end it already, but Kira just says nope and walks away, letting her rot in her own misery. So she is stuck fading away slowly, her looks completely falling apart to match the centuries she has actually been alive. Kira, meanwhile, picks up on the duo's radar and swears he is not letting them slip away this time. Miles away, the duo finally takes a breather, setting up a chill campfire out in the woods. They start chatting about the crazy journey they have been on. It has been a wild ride getting to this point. Every boss fight gave them serious experience and strength. But taking out innocent bystanders and sacrificing their lookalikes along the way? That is seriously messing with the younger sister's head. The endgame is finally staring them right in the face. Only one massive roadblock left, Kira Haruto. Taking out this ultimate boss means their payback tour is officially a wrap. They were totally banking on a quick breather first. Out of nowhere, Shin catches a weird sound and screams at his sister to bolt. The duo dives out of the way just as a massive blast nukes the exact ground they were chilling on. Haruto, music, looks incredibly smug about tracking them down. Gripping his blade, he shouts out that the ultimate hide-and-seek game is over. The pair instantly tries making a run for it. Manori figures a 2-on-1 fight gives them decent odds, but Shin totally shuts that idea down. He realizes their gas tanks are completely empty from battling Ya. If they do not ghost right now, they are getting bagged. But Kira blitzes them with insane speed. Our main guy blocks the rush, straight up telling the psycho he is the absolute worst person to run into today. Haruto takes offense to that vibe, clapping back that they actually share some seriously deep history. The villain casually mentions he originally just wanted to mess with the little sis. Now though, he is fully planning to wipe her off the map. His blade straight up mutates, growing massive and literally sprouting eyeballs. Honestly, he was still pretty salty she managed to ditch Seiya's creepy mansion. So, as a super twisted way to blow off some steam, he figured totally destroying her was the best therapy. Flashing a completely unhinged smile, Kira promises to delete her from reality just for ticking him off. Absolutely seeing red, Shin launches himself forward, adrenaline completely taking over. He throws a brutal right hook, which Haruto ghosts like it is nothing. Right on cue, Minori jumps in slashing with her dagger. The psycho deflects the whole combo, but Shin immediately follows up. Our boy quickly realizes pushing him with tag team tactics is actually doing some damage. Charging her tiny blade with some heavy-duty magic energy, Minori throws a super-powered slash right at the creep. While the villain steps back, our hero teleports right into his blind spot packing a glowing fist. Kira slips away again, realizing things are getting too spicy, and drops a hex. Suddenly, his creepy eyeball weapon glows with sick energy, proving this guy is playing on a completely different difficulty level. Shin scrambles trying to outrun the wild blade swings, but completely gets his arm sliced off. He flexes to grow it back like normal, only to realize his healing factor is totally glitched out. He starts bleeding out incredibly fast, while the agony completely fries his brain. Worse, his muscles just flat out freeze up. The second Minori dashes to save her bro. She takes a brutal cheap shot from the back. The insane kick launches her airborne, absolutely wrecking the forest as she crashes through timber. Kira smugly drops the lore that his weapon specifically counters immortal beings. Any damage it deals is locked in permanently. Zero healing allowed. Way different from the random junk he fought with earlier. This bad boy will actually send them to the grave for real. Pure panic sets in as Shin screams his lungs out. But the cold-blooded villain just casually raises his blade to deliver the final execution strike. The weapon connects hard, sending a massive crimson wave into the air. Kira flashes an arrogant grin, totally convinced he bagged the win. Big plot twist though. Minori totally threw herself into the crossfire to tank the hit for her big bro. Her physical form just gets instantly shredded, mentally breaking Shin on the spot. Tears absolutely stream down his face as he desperately cradles whatever is left of his brave little sister. She barely whispers his name as her final breath. Completely losing his mind, he spams every healing spell he knows, but gets absolutely zero response. He wails out, begging his little sis to just open her eyes, totally refusing to accept this nightmare. She manages to drop a final confession of love. Right before Kira brutally finishes the job, the sheer trauma leaves Makoto practically paralyzed, entirely unable to even blink. Meanwhile, Haruto loudly groans about how cringe sappy family drama is. He totally baited them, knowing attacking the brother would force the sister to play human shield. Blood ties are honestly super convenient for him, letting the psycho predict their playbook perfectly. Staring blankly at his sister's severed head, Makoto is so broken the tears just stop coming. Suddenly, a super nostalgic flashback hits him from when life was actually good. He flashes back to her cooking up awesome meals, and them just chilling over dinner. He sees her pinning up the laundry, cheerfully hyping up how epic the day was going to be. Music? He would always remind her they needed to jet to classes, and the two would walk to campus together. One time, she casually dropped that Yosha asked her out to the fish exhibits. Makoto was super confused, because he swore she despised those watery places. The real tea was that she was just dodging the date because she desperately missed hanging out with her big bro. Makoto had been grinding non-stop at his part-time gig lately. Picking up the hint, he asked if she wanted to hit up the aquarium with him instead. She was totally hyped, locking in that promise. Then the dream fast-forwards. Just casually strolling through town, they awkwardly bump right into Kira Haruto. The creep casually asked to verify their full names. Super caught off guard, the siblings gave him a nod. With zero chill, Haruto bragged about hunting them forever and finally scoring his prize. Without skipping a beat, he ripped out his blade, claiming he was there to harvest their unique physics. A split-second swing literally chopped Makoto right down the middle while his sister watched. She absolutely lost her mind, screaming, but in a glitchy twist, her brother just snapped back together. Haruto was visibly geeking out over that insane healing factor. Honestly, Makoto was just as shocked. Totally clueless he even had those crazy respawn stats. It basically proved his snitch's intel was spot on. These kids could not die. So, the psycho just swung again, literally popping both their heads off for round 2. He was totally mind-blown, watching them respawn endlessly, shrugging off every single fatal blow. Finding actual immortal descendants blew his mind, especially since the clueless siblings had zero idea about their own crazy bloodline. He instantly dropped them again, brutally pinning their heads to the dirt. That kicked off a never-ending nightmare where they basically became his personal, all-you-can-eat buffets. Haruto Kira butchered them hundreds of times to farm their bodies. Cut to now. Makoto is completely breaking down as he watches his sister permanently die. He totally snaps, unleashing a deafening shriek of pure rage. A massive wave of crimson power explodes from him, wrapping him in a seriously creepy, dark vibe. Even Haruto gets a little spooked, totally stunned by this crazy, nightmarish glow-up. Seeing Makoto morph into a horned demon drops his jaw. Roaring like a savage, Makoto charges up an absolutely insane amount of magic and rushes him. Just the sound wave shakes the earth, blasting out a shockwave that literally launches Haruto backward. Desperate to revive his sister, he hits her body with a crazy revival spell. She instantly heals up, leaving Haruto completely baffled since his blade should have perma-killed her. He's totally lost on what kind of wild skill or crazy mutation just happened. Seeing Makoto evolve right there definitely puts Haruto on edge. He'd never seen anything like this weird cheat code before, but decided to lock his sights on the brother anyway. Going completely all out, Kira rushes in, dead set on wiping Makoto off the map permanently. Before the hit even lands, Makoto instantly teleports behind him, gently setting his sister down safely out of harm's way. Haruto figures the guy finally picked up some real combat skills. Rocking his beast form, our boy lunges in to shred him up. Kira barely sidesteps, kicking off an insane, high-speed slugfest between the two. It totally ticks Haruto off that losing his sister gave this guy such a massive power buff. Meanwhile, he had to grind hundreds of kills just to level up. Screeching like a banshee, Makoto launches another crazy assault, refusing to take the massive disrespect. Kira throws down, pushing them into another brutal deadlock. Initially, it's a total stalemate until Makoto just hurls Kira across the battlefield, dealing him some serious damage for the first time in forever. He actually admits nobody's ever rocked his health bar that hard before, but warns the kid not to let it go to his head, because, at the end of the day, a knockoff Immortal simply couldn't take down the real deal. Smirking at the beast ignoring his trash talk, Haruto squares up. In a split second, they're back at it, trading a flurry of insane combos and last-second dodges. Makoto literally charges up some nasty black lightning and blasts it straight at him. Dodging it makes Haruto even more pissed off. He swings his blade for an instant kill shot, landing a brutal gash right on the guy's shoulder. That strike almost cleaves him completely in half, but Haruto wants to double tap to guarantee the kill. Going airborne, he dives in for a savage downward thrust to finish the job. But our guy heals up instantly, popping a magic shield. Tanking the hit, he leaps up and totally slams Kira right into the dirt with a massive blast. With Haruto eating dust, Makoto stalks closer. Kira is low-key panicking, absolutely refusing to accept getting taken out like trash. Out of nowhere, Minori actually wakes up, totally defying the anti-healing effect of that cursed blade. She watches her brother step back in terror, while Haruto suddenly triggers his own terrifying, half-demon awakening. Certain she just got sliced in half, she's completely lost, wondering if that giant, mutated beast is actually her sweet older brother. Rocking his ultimate form, Haruto flexes, claiming he swore to never reveal the state to a living soul. Massive wings tear right out of his back, as he promises the Immortals are about to pay the ultimate price. Fueled by pure spite, he dives in for a lethal strike. The two collide with downright god-tier power, radiating absolutely insane shockwaves everywhere. His sister watches completely stunned as they engage in a fiercely insane mid-air dogfight. Totally losing his mind, Kira pushes forward with a twisted, villainous grin, desperately swinging his huge blade. But Makoto casually stops the blade barehanded, charging up a crazy magic laser right in his mouth. The beam lands dead center, launching him into the stratosphere and dealing some absolutely insane damage. Amazingly, he tanks the hit and counter swings, crashing our boy into the dirt. A second later, he dashes in, launching him again with another massive slash. Digging his heels in to stop, Makoto bounces right back, screaming like an absolute maniac as he lunges forward. He literally sinks his teeth into the boss's neck. But ignoring the agonizing pain, Haruto spots an opening and cleanly slices Makoto's head right off. With that anti-healing sword doing the decapitating, He smugly figures there's zero chance the kid is ever respawning from that. He mocks the Immortal, asking if actually tasting death finally hurts. His hysterical laughter gets cut short as a glowing glyph bursts from Makoto. Makoto literally snaps his head right back into place. Haruto spots the glowing clock design spinning beneath him and immediately clicks that time is rewinding. Seeing both siblings bounce back from the grave absolutely shakes Kira to his core. Chuckling nervously, he calls bluff, betting there is zero chance the guy can spam that trick. Kira pulls his blade and drops the exact legendary slash that once obliterated the underworld boss. Ready to finish this, Makoto coats his weapon in glowing violet magic to block the lethal hit. They clash with everything they have, both desperately trying to wipe the other off the map. Kira muscles through the blast, completely slicing through the hero aura, and smirks thinking he bagged the win. But right then, Manori jumps into the fray. She presses her glowing palms against her brother's back, screaming at him to crush it, instantly shifting the vibe. Nodding his thanks, a massive surge of energy hits him, fueling their ultimate payback. Kira screams that he has slaughtered them hundreds of times already, bragging that fate always ends with him wrecking them. Manori fires back that their endless respawn loop ends today, because they are about to permanently delete him instead. Right on cue, Makoto drops an absolutely insane wave of magic. The blast hits the guild boss dead center like a literal nuke. Fast forward a few days after Kira bit the dust, the massive Byakurin Guild investigation finally dropped, exposing all their dirty secrets to the world. Fellow hunters could not stop gossiping about how totally unhinged that crew really was. The whole world suddenly realized there was zero chance Kira was just a normal guy. The internet totally fell for the siblings, even though their shady payback crimes were permanently on the record. Still, they walked away free. With their revenge checklist fully cleared, Makoto and his sister sat around brainstorming their next move, totally drawing a blank. Out of nowhere, he jumps up, hyping up that old promise about hitting the aquarium together. Manori bursts into happy tears and immediately jumps on board. With infinite time on their hands now, they had massive catching up to do. Fate definitely tried to wreck them, but they just kept pushing through. Side by side, they promised to completely reboot their lives from scratch as many times as it takes.